What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about volumes 7, 8, and 9 of Skip Beat. Now, these three volumes in particular are really special to me. I really love them, especially because of the development and character growth we see on Kyoko's side, in particular with her dealing with Sho. So obviously, if you haven't read these volumes yet, this is your spoiler warning. This also is covered, there's quite a few chunks that are taken out, but if you have watched the anime, the 25, 26 episodes there are of the anime, these three volumes are covered in the anime as well, but there is so much that was taken out, especially in regards to Kanae and her backstory. Regardless of that, if you've watched the anime, then you'll know what these three volumes entail. But just so you know, I am going to be formatting this video a little bit differently. I'm not going to do it like the way I did the last two videos over Skip Beat. This one's going to be a little bit shorter, more compact. I'm not going to talk about everything that happens in these three volumes like I did in the other videos. Instead, I'm going to be making more of just three distinct points that I want to cover and talk about with these three. And then we're going to kind of go from there. These videos haven't really been doing super well on YouTube. So if y'all want to have more Skip Beat content, and if you like these videos, please let me know. Please support these videos, because I may end up having to put the rest of this series on hold, even as much as that kills me, just because it does affect my channel when I have some videos that don't perform as well. So with that being said, this is my review over Skip Beats volumes 7, 8, and 9. So the first of the 3 points that I want to bring up is Kyoko's relationship with Sho. So we really get to see Kyoko face off against Sho this arc pretty much. She is offered a job by Queen Records. That means she has to directly interact with Sho, and she is afraid that Sho has figured out that, you know, she's gotten into the acting business. So there's a lot of inner conflict with Kyoko at the moment, but she goes in and does her best. She puts on this acting persona that at first has Sho completely fooled, and he doesn't even recognize her. But eventually that facade breaks and Sho figures out exactly who Kyoko is. But because of the pride he has and his own egotism, he decides to let Kyoko stay because he doesn't think Kyoko can act. He doesn't think she will be able to do anything that will make him suffer, that will make him fall at her feet in a sense. And he is proven wrong. I love this bit, how Kyoko at first is struggling to really get into character as this angel, because she is very much not angel-like when it comes to Sho because of all of her hatred and rage for him. But as she's going, she gets into character. She starts looking at the other angel as Kanae, and it makes her scenes with Memori, they make it so much more believable, and she actually wins Memori over, even though she had just proclaimed her hatred for Kyoko because Kyoko didn't get along with Sho. And she wins Memori over like that because she has real acting chops, and as soon as Sho sees her in costume, he sees her dressed up and dolled up as this angel, he becomes mesmerized as he's watching her acting. And that leads to him like panicking internally. He'll be like, wait, like, why am I looking at her? Why am I even getting sucked into her acting? It creates such a fascinating and hilarious dynamic because we see Sho realizing for the first time that, oh, like, Kyoko is a woman. He's not just seeing her as this plain childhood friend that he used to have. No, he's actually seeing this is a woman who's got real acting chops, who has come here to devour me and take me down. She very well could if I'm not careful. Of course, Sho just tries to deny this with all of his being, but there's only so much denial he can have until he has to go up against Kyoko. And I love at first when it's finally time for him and Kyoko to go up against each other, Kyoko just straight up rages at him, almost chokes him out and almost chokes him to death. and she has to be stopped and everything. And I love how he's like, oh my gosh, like she was actually trying to kill me. It's really funny. The comedy in this series never fails. It never misses. I love it so much. But the main takeaway of this in particular was the idea that Kyoko, at her wit's end, because she wasn't able to fall into role because of that hatred for Sho, she tries to call Ren, her mentor at this point in time, because the end of the arc where she was his assistant manager, substitute manager, ended really well for them. And now he's like this kind of mentor figure for her to look up to for acting. So she tries to call him, can't get through to him, so she calls Kane, gets through to her, and Kane is able to help her kind of wrestle through these emotions and these feelings. And Kyoko is able to pull off, because she's able to think so deeply about her character situation, the other angel situation, because she's actually able to delve deep into this mindset and think about it. She's able to pull off the most stunning performance and just completely blows Sho away. And one of the reasons that she completely catches him by surprise is because she's able to cry real tears. She's able to fully immerse herself into these emotions that she cries. And Sho, it is revealed that he has never been able to stand seeing her cry. He's never known what to do whenever he sees Kyoko cry, and he feels helpless in front of her, and those feelings resurface in him when he sees her crying, and she just completely overwhelms him, to the point where they have to retake the scene just to get Sho to do what he was supposed to, because he couldn't take his eyes off her. And that was the absolute opposite of what the video was supposed to be. It's great because at this moment, Kyoko transcended her revenge plot. She did more than just, oh, well, I'm going to take this gig for revenge. I'm going to get my revenge on Shotaro in this moment. She overcame that in this moment to become her character, to become this angel in this situation with her friend on the line. And I just love that for her, because Kyoko was able to 100% forget about Sho, forget about her hatred for him and the revenge she wanted to have on him, and just focus on acting, just focus on what she was doing in that moment. And that's such an amazing moment for her character, that she was able to forget the man she hates the most in the world, even though he was right in front of her. She was interacting with him, and the hatred never surfaced. I loved that moment. That is honestly the best moment in these 3 volumes. That is the best scene in these 3 volumes. I love those chapters that cover this moment. It is an encapsulation of what we've seen Kyoko's growth, what we've seen her work towards in the first 6 volumes come to fruition here. And we see the first little glimpse of the true acting Kyoko that is going to be born because of this revenge. But we finally get a sense of her true self and who she really is, despite the hatred, despite the rage. And it is beautiful to see. I love this moment. And because she decided to work with Sho, because she decided to go there to get revenge, she was able to find herself and fall into a role for the first time. It was great. And Sho has a very drastic response to this, that he is now drawn back into Kyoko, though he will never admit it. He still thinks Kyoko is his, which, that's a whole other mess. He's a mess of a character. He's a great character, but he's a mess of a character at the same time. But it's like he is so adamant in refusing that Kyoko means anything to him, that she's still his, that he doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that she is somebody to look at. She is somebody that draws his attention, that he can talk to like he can't talk to anybody else. And even after the shoot is over, and Sho is in his room by himself. When he hears someone at the door, he thinks, his first instinct is like, oh, it's Kyoko. Gets disappointed when it's Memori, and he's like, oh, well, what am I thinking? She would never come here. And I love their dynamic because there's so much bad blood between them, but there's also this level of familiarity because they spent so many years together, that even though they have this hatred towards each other, there's still this like level, and this gets further explored in the series. There's like this wall around them that when they're talking, even if it's arguing, nobody can interfere, nobody can get into their space. It's like an unbreakable, like just invisible wall around them that makes them have a world of their own. And it creates a very interesting dynamic, especially towards the end, where Kyoko admits to him for the first time that she's like, I know you couldn't handle me crying. I know that you didn't know what to do, so I went somewhere else so I wouldn't bother you. And that leads her to thinking of Korn, who is Rin, and he's just like, wait a second. You went somewhere else to cry? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you do that? It leads to all these questions, which leads to an argument. And it's kind of funny because even though they have this like high level of hatred, their interactions are still kind of a little childish, and they still act friendly-ish to each other, even though they're like always arguing, always like fighting, running away from each other, like, and it's just so interesting, their dynamic. It's so hard to just explain as, oh, it's a love-hate relationship, but definitely more hate. There's really not a lot of love there left anymore. But there's this familiarity that makes all of their conversations very intentional and very purposeful. The last thing I want to point out about Sho and Kyoko's interaction and their relationship in these three is how Sho reacts to knowing that Kyoko has Rin's phone number. He instantly gets upset and he gets jealous. Dare I say it, he gets jealous when he realizes that Kyoko has direct contact with Rin, who one is like his self-proclaimed rival, is Sho's self-proclaimed rival. He wants to beat Rin. And now Kyoko, this girl that he scorned and left in the dirt, is now rising to stardom in the same agency as Rin, and is on a just regular talking basis with him. And that lights a fire under him that comes into play in the later volumes that I just love, and I enjoy that it was set up here. That conflict was set up as early as here, as Sho intercepts Kyoko's phone call to hang up on Rin. Now, the second most important moment of these three volumes that I want to talk about is Kyoko and Kanae, their relationship. We get a lot of Kanae's backstory and her situation, her family situation in these three volumes. We get to see why she is the way she is, the way she acts around other people, and how her family situation and the way she grew up is ending up affecting her job, but she doesn't want to tell anybody that because of all the other odd jobs she has to do. So she ends up trying to ignore Kyoko when Kyoko realizes, like, oh, well, she's upset about something. Kind of ignores her, at least this whole thing. And it's so funny. Their relationship is so wholesome. They have the best friendship ever. And I love how once Kanae realizes that she's made Kyoko upset, she feels so bad about it, but she doesn't really know how to address that in a way. So she decides to show Kyoko, and we get introduced to Kanae's family, how she's just got a lot of little rugrats running around who are always like throwing themselves at her. Like, they're like, oh, Kanae's home, let's go like run and rush her and give her hugs and everything. And so like she is very just kind of rough with them, of having to deal with all of these different little kids all at the same time. So she's used to just kind of like roughhousing with these kids and tossing them around, giving them snacks, giving them food. Roughhousing. That's what she's used to, and it's so cool to see Kanae being around her family, because she's a lot different than when she perceives herself as an actor, as just this actress. She's a lot different when she gets around her family. You can see like she's not as stoic. Her stoicism goes away instantly when she's with her family. You see how stressed she really is, but how much she really cares about them, how attentive she is to them with all their needs, what all the kids want, her sisters, her family. She's got a very wholesome family unit around her. She just doesn't know how to engage with it all the time, and she doesn't know how to tell other people about it because she's just awkward in that sense. So the fact that she shows Kyoko her family, invites Kyoko to her home, and lets her see kind of the chaos of her household shows how much Kane trusts Kyoko, how much of a friendship that they have, how she values her friendship. And I love that she actually goes to show Hio, who is a child co-star that he thinks has just very much offended him because of her actions towards him, how she treated him on set, because she's supposed to treat him like a child, and the way she treats children is a lot different. So it got into a lot of complications, a lot of trouble, and she ends up showing Hio her situation in order to help herself at work and to help him understand where she's coming from. If you hear something in the background, I'm so sorry. I'm doing laundry. So I'll just ask that you ignore that. But I love that we really get to dive into what Kanae does on a daily basis, how she takes these odd jobs to help her get money so that she can help provide for her family. I love that we get introduced to her family and we see how sweet they are, how connected and close they all are to each other. And I love that Kyoko gets to be a part of that because it really just solidifies their friendship again, because that shows how much Kanae trusts Kyoko, even with something like this, with something she's so awkward and doesn't know how to approach. She wants to show Kyoko because Kyoko is her friend, so she does it despite how hard it is for her. And I just love that. I love being able to get a closer look at these characters, and we get to see a lot of Kanae's inspiration, a lot of her background and her history here. And I really enjoyed that. It made her and Kyoko's relationship grow a lot more because she was able to trust Kyoko with something she hasn't really told anybody before. And later, Kyoko trusts Kanae with her secret of why she got into the industry in the first place, to get revenge. She gets to tell her secret to Kanae, which actually makes it a lot better. And I don't like how the anime cut this part out. They cut Kanae's story out because while it still makes Kyoko admitting to Kanae like her secret and everything, it still makes it like, oh, a good bonding moment for them. But knowing that Kanae was actually the first one to share her secret with Kyoko before Kyoko shared it with her makes it a lot more intentional, and it gives a lot more depth to their friendship, to the relationship, because Kyoko obviously seems like the more open, happy-go-lucky one of the two, and yet Kanae was the first one to bring Kyoko in and let her see those secrets, and Kyoko was the last one to let Kanae in. I just think it makes it a really great dynamic, a really interesting storytelling device of how these characters, though, you know, you have Kanae's more of a stoic, serious character, and Kyoko's more of like an expressive, happier character. And yet when it came to like telling others like things that were most personal to them, Kanae was the first to break. And Kyoko didn't break until later when Kanae kind of forced her hand about it. Now the third point I want to make about these 3 volumes is the relationship between Kyoko and Rin. I can't go through Skip without mentioning their relationship. I mean, it's them. It's about them. The volume started off with the end of the assistant manager or the substitute manager arc, where Kyoko basically risked her legs pretty much to ride the bike to get Rin to his job so that he wouldn't be late. That moment impressed Rin so much. I think that was the first glimmer of emotion we've really seen from Rin. When it really comes to how he feels about her, I think that's when his emotions truly started to change. And the dynamic between them is so funny because when Rin realizes that she didn't do all of that just for him, she thought it was just for her job, that makes him take away points from her that he was gonna give her, because he was like, that's not the point of this, this mission, this love me mission. So you get docked points. In reality, he was upset because it wasn't all for him, and Yashiro calls him out on it. And I love Yashiro as a character. I love how Yashiro calls him out like immediately and points it out to Rin that he is being a little childish, and Rin admits it, but he's like, well, I can't do anything now, I've already done it. And I love how Rin's thoughts go from that to how he doesn't want Kyoko to meet up with Sho just yet, not until she's able to think more of herself and kind of get more into acting and discover more of who she wants to be. Right as Kyoko is walking to Sho to that music video with him. So when Rin finds out, because of that phone call that Sho hung up on, when Rin finds out that Kyoko had been on a job with Sho, he gets so unbelievably mad and jealous, and doesn't even realize how jealous he is until he sees Kyoko and accidentally takes it out on her, even when she lies to try to say it wasn't for revenge, because she's like, I just got this guy's respect, I can't lose it after just getting it, I'm gonna lie. So she's like, oh no, it wasn't for revenge, it wasn't for anything like that. And that makes him even angrier, to the point where Rin ends up not being able to work with other people at the given time because he's so mad and upset that Yashiro again has to set him aside and call him out on it. And Yashiro's like, look, you know something about those two that you're not telling us. What is going on? And I love this about Rin, is that even though he had every right to tell Yashiro, he had no reason to keep it a secret. He decides not to tell Yashiro and decides to keep Kyoko's secret, which he didn't have to do, but he did, because he is a very respectable man. As childish as he can be, he has a lot of respectable qualities, and that is one of them. He's not just gonna go blabbing just because he's upset or angry or because he thinks it would help solve a problem. And I love this because as Yashiro is pulling him aside to deal with Rin, Kyoko ends up talking to Kanae about it because Kyoko has no idea how to deal with the situation. And that's when Kanae just casually brings up the fact, like, well, if you said it wasn't for revenge, he knew it wasn't for revenge, then maybe he's just jealous. Maybe he likes you. And Kyoko cannot fathom the idea that Rin would like her, because she just thinks he likes to bully her. She just sees him as this mentor, this older senpai type character that likes to bully her. That's all she sees him as right now. So she cannot even like process the idea that like Moko could be correct, even though she absolutely is. And it's so funny to see these two different perspectives, because Rin is keeping her secret, going as far as having his phone broken by Yashiro in order to keep a secret, and Kyoko over here ends up spilling everything to Kanae and telling her everything just to get advice that she doesn't understand and she doesn't like. So she's like, no, that can't possibly be it. He must know I'm lying, which leads to a very funny confrontation when Kyoko decides that she needs to apologize to Rin, that she needs to kind of own up to the fact that she lied to him so that they could clear the air and be able to move forward, because there's this huge project, this huge drama that Kyoko has been casted for that Rin is also going to be in, and Kyoko couldn't stand it if they had bad tension between them before they went onto set and started shooting. Her apology does not go well at first. It's, again, this show and its comedy is always on point. I love how she, one, tries to run from him and like closes the elevator doors on him, and then ends up being like, oh crap, he was trying to get on the elevator, I closed the doors on him, I have to apologize for again another thing. So she has to run after him and is apologizing to him in public in front of everybody, and he's just like, stop. I love that scene. I love their interactions, and the moment Kyoko admits to him that, you know, like, I did lie to you, I took that job for revenge, I just didn't want to lose the trust that I got, and she was very transparent, very straightforward with him, And this is where we see the first glimmer of Ren's real problem when dealing with love. It's that he doesn't know how to express it. He doesn't know how to let this facade down to kind of show his true feelings, his true emotions, because Kyoko goes on this long spiel and he just goes, "Oh, I see." Like, that's all she gets from him. And even Yashiro's sitting beside him like, "You idiot." So like, why are you doing this? But Ren ends up accepting her apology, and he even applauds her in a sense, because he's like, if the job went out without, or if the job was finished without a hitch, then you obviously did your role right, and if you didn't cause any problems, there's no issue. I have nothing to complain about. Clears all the tension. Kyoko is happy. He's happy. Yashiro is just dumbfounded at how dumb these two are. And I love this development, because we see the first glimpse of desperation on Kyoko's side to clear up this misunderstanding between them, so in order to work with him. And we see on Ren's side this side of jealousy and the side of him not being able to properly portray his emotions because of all the years that he's had of just building up this stoic facade, which really comes into play in later volumes. It's such a fascinating development, such a fascinating relationship that these two are developing. They're definitely like friends at this point, I would say. Like, there's still this like mentor-student dynamic between them, but they're definitely more friendly with one another. They're definitely more like friends now. I think from where they were at the very beginning of this series to now, that is really good, steady progress. And it leads onto the Dark Moon arc. It's more of a saga, really. That arc is very long, but very good. There's so much within Dark Moon that I just love. But that's really what starts Dark Moon, is that they clear the air. And Ren, even though he's highly discouraged by the president, because the president even calls him out on his inability to act like he's been in love, Ren decides to go through with it, and he figures out Kyoko is going to be acting with him, even though Kyoko is not looking forward to her role at all at first because of who she's playing, but gets persuaded by both Ren and the director to do the role. And the volumes end with them all coming together and being like, yes, let's do this. Let's remake this series into something new, into something great. And Kyoko gets wrapped up in the idea of like, I get to see Ren acting in front of me. I get to learn from him firsthand, to the point where she can't even like think about refusing this role and takes it. And that's where we're left for now. I love these 3 volumes because of those 3 reasons specifically. There's a lot of development with Kyoko herself and how she has improved, how she has been able to get a grasp on who she is and her acting, and how she's able to start falling into these roles. And we get to see how her being that angel, being able to think about and immerse herself in her role so much that she forgets about show, how that development comes into play later with all the other roles that she takes on. I love that. I love how the dynamic with show starts, because it is a very much love-hate relationship, but there is like this certain sort of tension between them that just cannot be erased. And it leads to a very interesting development later on. But we also, again, get more of Kanae and Kyoko, their friendship. We got a lot of Kanae's backstory. I know I just barely touched on it, but it's so worth the read. Her backstory is wonderful. I love her family. I love their dynamics. It's definitely a must, and I love how it shows how Kanae herself is progressing as an actress, how she is starting to grow, and how she is able to start showing a little bit more love, like she's supposed to, being in the Love Me group. Same with Kyoko. And then, of course, Kyoko and Ren's relationship. I mean, it goes without saying that I absolutely love the dynamic between them and how their relationship is starting to grow throughout the series. This is like the the first biggest moment, I'd say, for them is they're kind of able to communicate in a way that it clears the air, clears some of the tension, in order for them to be friends, in order for them to work together. And now that they're working together, who knows where that might lead. I know where it leads, but y'all don't yet, so That's all for this review. Like I said, I kept it a little bit shorter than the other Skip Beat reviews. If you liked this better, where I just talk about 3 things for Skip Beat for the volumes that I read, 3 things that I thought were the most important, let me know down below. Again, depending on how well this video does, I may or may not put this series on a hold for a little bit, just until we get some more people who love Skip Beat to read this. But if you do like this video, make sure you like and comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Skip Beat, on these volumes in particular. What are your thoughts on our characters? Kyoko, Rin, Kane, Sho, Yashiro, the president. I want to know what you think about all of these characters, because we have a huge cast of characters in this manga, and I want to know what your thoughts are on them. And what your favorite relationship dynamic is between the characters, because it could vary. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!